So we do that. And I think it's not a bad thing to train yourself to sort of just stay close to the news. I'm just going to close with a couple of comments here, and I'm going to use the example of back to the medical assistants in dying. Back in 1997, CNA helped to form a group called the Health Action Lobby with the physicians and what was then the Canadian Hospital Association. And we did that to get in the door, to be able to talk to the people in charge of legislation. 2 weeks ago or 3, I can't, just before your holiday, or maybe during your holiday, I was summoned. So note, we didn't have to ask. We were asked to come to a meeting with the docs and some other, pharmacists and the usual crowd that comes with these things in health, to meet with the Minister of Justice, the Minister of Health, and the one I always get wrong, the Minister of Employment Relations, Disabilities. I always get it wrong, that long title.
Employment, Development, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities.
Persons with Disabilities. To ask our opinion about the legislation that they tabled subsequently last week, I think, right? It was last Wednesday or something. So that's a very different place of privilege to be invited in the door than we've ever had before, and we will now face a long, battle's not the word, but effort at CNA to become interveners in the Supreme Court case, which will surely happen no matter what gets decided the legislation has been tabled. I'm thinking of the Brian Day Supreme Court case because I'm looking at his picture, forgive me. To intervene to support the legislation as it becomes, how does the bill become a law, we just talked about, and find our place in that process. One of you asked about an elevator speech, and I can tell you, if I was going to Parliament today, so assuming that Ms. Haiju, the minister, isn't completely hijacked by the virus, the issue that I would have on the tip of my tongue would be something like the medical assistance in dying. And one of the pieces that the government's put in place around the advanced directives, right, so that your death isn't imminent, you should be able to choose it in the long term, is that people have to be presented with the options for care, including palliative care, home care, pain relief, and so on. So I would be able to say, if I had her, first of all, sometimes it's relationship building. I don't always tackle them with an issue. I might just say, boy, you're in a pickle this week. Like, how are you guys doing? Because there's so much going on. But assuming that it was right, I would say, I'm so glad we had a chance to talk the other day at that meeting. We're still concerned about the pace of this legislation going through. So, the decision in the legislation is that people have to be offered all these alternatives. We don't provide them. Most of the people in the country would benefit from good palliative care, and they want to die at home. Most of them never get any palliative care, and they die in a hospital. It's an unsustainable, poor quality model when we're heading to 300,000 deaths a year. Imagine the cost, right? And most of your costs are in the end of your life in that last month. And a lot of those people have a critical care admission. That's the whole trajectory doesn't make any sense if you're saying you can choose MAID only if you understand that you have all these other options, but we can't provide them. Like it's a very strange quandary they find themselves in. So I'm always able to talk about seniors and the link between seniors and the use of health services and chronic disease. So I usually have, when I'm heading to a place, 3 or 4 issues in mind. And I don't know all the things about everything. Sarah could tell you well. I sometimes have to study for hours before I show up there to appear before some committee or whatever it is. But I think there's a confidence, if you even know one thing really well, one sector really well, you can always talk about that. I think it's a confidence-boosting strategy. So I'm going to stop there, Claire. I think we're to go back to you.